hello, dear viewers. Your Lady Whispering Wits is here. As your guide, let me take you to the beautiful wonders and whispered secrets of England's most poetic landscape. Let me confess a truth that may surprise you. My love affair with the Lake District began as something of an arranged marriage. As a young student in Pakistan during the early 1990s, trudging through my BA in English Literature and Fine Arts, William Wordsworth was initially my academic tormentor. Who, I wondered in those early days, could possibly write several hundred lines about a single daffodil? Why must I analyze yet another meditation on a leech gatherer when the sweltering Lahore heat made me yearn for simpler pleasures? Little did I know that this reluctant academic courtship would blossom into a lifelong passion. My father, with his profound reverence for literature, had unknowingly set me on a path that would eventually lead me to these misty fells and mirrored waters. As the great Wordsworth himself once wrote, "What we have loved, others will love, and we will teach them how." The train from London pulls into Windermere Station, and immediately one senses the shift in atmosphere. The air here possesses a crystalline quality, as if filtered through the ancient stones and sweet waters of this glacial landscape. The Lake District National Park stretches before us. 912 square miles of England's most sublime natural beauty, nestled in the northwest county of Cumbria. As I step onto the platform, I'm reminded of Wordsworth's lines. "I wandered lonely as a cloud." Except here, one is never truly lonely. The spirit of the place envelops you immediately like an old friend's embrace. The largest natural lake in England stretches before me, Windermere, a glittering ribbon of blue cutting through the verdant landscape. At over 10 miles long, but never more than a mile wide, it resembles a looking glass fallen from the hand of a giant. On days like today, when the sky is reflected perfectly on its surface, one understands why Wordsworth described this region as the loveliest spot that man hath ever found. Our journey continues to near Sawrey, where a small 17th century farmhouse called Hilltop stands as testament to another literary giant who fell under the Lake District's spell. Beatrix Potter purchased this charming stone cottage with proceeds from her first book, The Tale of Peter Rabbit, in 1905. Walking through the garden, I half expect to see Jemima Puddle Duck waddling around the corner or Tom Kitten playing on the stairs. Every room in this preserved time capsule contains inspirations for her beloved tales. The beautiful thing about Hilltop is that it appears exactly as Potter left it, almost as if she's just stepped out for a moment and might return to continue working on her illustrations. "Thank goodness I was never sent to school," Potter once wrote. "It would have rubbed off some of the originality." Looking at the countryside that surrounds Hilltop Farm, one sees how this landscape nurtured her originality rather than diminished it. The village of Grasmere must surely rank among England's most picturesque settlements. The poet Wordsworth described it as the loveliest spot that man hath ever found, and I'm inclined to agree with him, though I suspect he said similar things about numerous locations in his beloved lakes. Dove Cottage, Wordsworth's home from 1799 to 1808, stands much as it did during his residency. Its whitewashed walls and small garden offer a glimpse into the domestic life that fueled his creative output. It was here, in this modest dwelling, that he wrote much of his most celebrated work, including parts of the Prelude and I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. As I walk through the rooms, I'm struck by their smallness, how grand thoughts emerged from such humble surroundings. In the garden, Wordsworth's sister Dorothy would observe the natural world with meticulous attention, recording observations in her journals that William would later transform into verse. Nearby lies the Grasmere churchyard, where Wordsworth, his wife Mary, his sister Dorothy, and other family members rest beneath simple stones. The River Rothay murmurs nearby, providing a perpetual eulogy more fitting than any human words could offer. If Beatrix Potter and William Wordsworth could have designed a landscape together, it might have looked like Tarn House. This artificially created lake, surrounded by woodland and set against dramatic mountain scenery, represents the Lake District at its most picture-perfect. Interestingly, this seemingly timeless landscape is actually a Victorian creation, the vision of a wealthy landowner who dammed a stream to create 3 smaller tarns into one larger body of water. Later, Beatrix Potter herself would purchase this land, eventually bequeathing it to the National Trust. Here, one might say, literature physically shaped the landscape rather than merely describing it. Nearby, Coniston Water carries darker literary associations. It was here that Arthur Ransome set his Swallows and Amazons adventures, but also where Donald Campbell lost his life attempting to break the water speed record in his vessel Bluebird in 1967. A reminder that nature's beauty often carries hidden dangers. No visit to the Lake District would be complete without venturing into its wilder heart. The Langdale Pikes rise dramatically from the valley floor, jagged sentinels that have inspired writers, poets, and painters for centuries. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Wordsworth's friend and fellow lake poet, was particularly drawn to these more dramatic landscapes. As I hike along the well-worn paths, I pass dry stone walls that have stood for centuries, their weathered grey stones fitted together without mortar, a testament to human craftsmanship working in harmony with natural materials. Herdwick sheep, the iconic breed of the region with their distinctive grey wool, graze peacefully on impossibly steep slopes. The poetry of John Keats comes unbidden to my mind. The poetry of earth is never dead. Here in the Langdales, that poetry finds its most powerful expression. Derwent Water, ringed by mountains and dotted with islands, offers perhaps the most dramatic setting of all the major lakes. The town of Keswick at its northern shore serves as an excellent base for exploration. On Friars Crag, a promontory jutting into the lake, I stand where the Victorian art critic and philosopher John Ruskin declared the view one of the 3 most beautiful scenes in Europe. Whether or not one agrees with such rankings, the panorama certainly inspires contemplation. A circular path around the lake takes about 3 hours to complete, offering constantly changing perspectives on the water and surrounding fells. I pass Lodore Falls, immortalized in Robert Southey's onomatopoeic poem, that attempts to capture in words the sound of rushing water, recoiling, turmoiling, and toiling and boiling. For those seeking England's most extreme landscapes, Wasdale offers both the country's deepest lake, Wastewater, and highest mountain, Scafell Pike. Here, the scenery turns decidedly more dramatic, almost alpine in character. The tiny church of St. Olaf's claims to be the smallest in England, while the nearby Wasdale Head Inn has long served as a base for mountaineers and adventurers. The famous British climber Walter Parry Haskett Smith, considered the father of rock climbing, first scaled the imposing Napes Needle here in 1886, beginning a tradition that continues to this day. As I gaze up at the imposing scree slopes plunging into the dark waters of Wastewater, I am reminded of the Lake District's dual nature, both pastoral paradise and wild wilderness. The Lake District isn't merely a collection of pretty views. It represents a cultural landscape shaped by thousands of years of human habitation. From the mysterious Neolithic stone circles at Castle Rigg, predating Stonehenge by 1,000 years, to the industrial heritage of slate mining that literally built Victorian Britain, human history is written into every valley and hillside. The Cumberland sausage, Grasmere gingerbread, and Kendal mint cake aren't just local delicacies, but cultural artifacts, the latter famously accompanying Sir Edmund Hillary on his conquest of Mount Everest. In 2017, UNESCO finally recognized what literary pilgrims had known for centuries by designating the Lake District a World Heritage Site. Yet this recognition brings challenges. Over 19 million visitors flock to the region annually, creating pressures on both the natural environment and local communities. Climate change, too, makes its presence felt. The region's famous rainfall patterns are becoming less predictable, affecting both the landscape and traditional farming practices that have shaped it for centuries. Yet despite these challenges, the essential character of the lakes endures. As I prepare to depart, I am reminded of Wordsworth's words. Though absent long, these forms of beauty have not been to me, as is a landscape to a blind man's eye. And that, dear viewers, is the true magic of this place. Whether you visit once or return year after year, the Lake District imprints itself on your consciousness. Like the reluctant student I once was, you may come by obligation, but you'll almost certainly leave enchanted. As Beatrix Potter wrote, there is something delicious about writing the first words of a story. You never quite know where they'll take you. My story began in a classroom in Pakistan, dreaming of distant landscapes described by long-dead poets. Where will yours begin? Lady Whispering Wits bids you farewell until our next literary adventure.